This person has taught me some of the most valuable things in art, in creativity, and in making films. He was one of the people who inspired me to make films in the first place. The city that I now live in is inherently connected to David Lynch, but I didn't know it when I moved here. A lot of people around me, a lot of places around me are also connected to that person. His influence over my life, a place where I live, my art, is not small, it's quite big. Today I would like to share with you those lessons that I learned from him that changed my life and my art. I would like to share with you some stories that are connected to him and that changed the place where I live in and people around me and me myself. So today I would like to remember David Lynch, to speak about how his films and his attitude shaped my work and work of people around me as well. I should start at the age of 12. When I was 12, I was very interested in mysteries, in adventures, like how I am now, in mysteries all over me. Me and my cousin were doing a lot of investigations. Basically, we were doing investigations with a lot of more people. We investigated different mysterious stuff all over us, and we were very curious about the world and about how the world was and about different phenomena. I somehow saved this attitude till this very day, and I hope to share it with everyone who watches this as well. David is like a person who put this sort of experimental film, art house, mysterious film into the mainstream. So because of David Lynch, a lot of people now know this genre of film. And one day I was looking at certain groups, forums, and found a director that he has done such an experimental series called Rabbits. Rabbits was the first film of David Lynch that I watched. I watched it when I was 12, I rewatched it when I was 14, I rewatched it a couple of years later and later. It is weird. It's a series about literal rabbits that come into a room, that come out of room, that make sounds, that say some seemingly random words, and it is very mysterious. It is very scary. It is quite disturbing at times, even though there are almost no disturbing things. There are no screamers in traditional sense. It is not horror, but the feeling that I got from it was so weird and so mysterious that I somehow tried to look into it and into this creator, what he does apart from this film. But I believe that it is not the main thing that David Lynch has done to cinema and to art and to creativity, but it's one of important things. I looked at different groups, tried to understand what this film means. When I tried to capture and to solve, I tried to solve this film. But next big thing about David Lynch is that he gives a full freedom of interpretation. You know, there is such a concept as death of author. It's almost a pop concept by now. But the first time when I understood it was not through scientific works, not through pop culture, not through academia, but through David Lynch and his attitude to filmmaking and to art overall. Even this is not the most important thing that I believe about his art. It is a very important part of his attitude. And he always mentioned that there is no certain way to read his films. There is no certain way to solve his films. You don't have an answer who killed Laura Palmer. You can solve rabbits. You can solve what they say to each other and why and what is inherent reason in it. You can't really solve Mulholland Drive. You can't really solve his first experimental films. It's not about solving. It's about perception and it's about mystery itself. And that is what I understood at this very early age, thanks to David Lynch. It's something that I incorporated into my art very early on, in my first animations, into my first documentaries, into my first short films, into my visual artworks as well. Like artworks that I do now, that I do exhibitions in Europe, that I make all over different cities, that I travel with, that I do various projects with. Art called Verse Informs, where I write word by word, letter by letter, until a visual image occurs. It's also like a puzzle that you can solve. Mystery. You know certain elements from it, and you know parts of it. When it comes to a whole image, you can't read it like line by line. And that's the point, that is the beauty of it. David Lynch never gone to film school. Since digital cinema became more popular in 2010s, filmmakers have this very popular opinion that film school is not all that important. All it gives you is connections, and all other things you can receive on the internet. That was basically in my mind as well. But David Lynch has done it a long earlier. David Lynch is a visual artist in the first place. He started doing visual art and then also added film to it. And it's very interesting how exactly has he done it. So, he studied in Academy of Fine Arts in Philadelphia, which was a very industrial city, which was at the time quite a decaying city. Philadelphians, how is it now? This feeling, this aesthetic of a slowly decaying industrial city in a rust belt has transitioned into his first work. His first work was not Eraserhead, not his first feature film. His first work was this short animation film about men who were sick 6 times, I guess. And it is an alive painting. It's not a film, it's not animation, it's an alive painting. You know, now there are those digital artists who are doing moving paintings, there are GIF animations, there are NFTs that move and etc. At that time, such a thing as alive paintings was very underground and not really known. David Lynch has started doing it, and through it he came to cinema. All filmmakers come to cinema through different means. Some come from photography, some come from writing, some come from theater, some come from film criticism, like French New Wave and one of the most favorite directors, Jacques Rivette, who was an editor of Cahiers du Cinéma for a very long time, and he came from criticism to making film, as well as Godard, Truffaut, and all people in this community. But many people come through photography. For example, I came to cinema through photography and through visual art. I started doing photography, then I started doing animations, time lapses, and through that I came to making films, both documentary and with actors. For David Lynch, it was completely visual art. And let me digress a bit. One of those things that David Lynch done that has quite a lot of social impact is transcendental meditation. It's quite a controversial topic because it's connected to different organizations who are sometimes questionable, but as a practice in itself, it's quite an interesting thing. I have tried this type of meditation where you basically repeat and repeat certain sound. Also when I was 13, and I done that only just because I read a book by David Lynch called Catching a Big Fish. I read this book only because I watched David Lynch films, some of his least popular films actually, and was very interested in his creative work. It is basically his method for idea generation. It's also very interesting that a lot of creators, a lot of artists have their own methods of idea generation. I also have my own. For example, even now here I am with this notebook, and for me all of my thinking process is basically a writing process. So I write everything, I generate ideas, I create projects, I transform projects, I organize life, I organize connections with people, my travels, my art projects, and a lot more. So even though I tried, for example, meditation, I now find a lot more power, a lot more joy in things like Christian prayer and in the process of writing that gives me ideas and that helps me to transform them as well. But there is no doubt that this idea that he pushed and promoted has done quite a lot of impact in recent years. So it's one of the things that impacted me as well, but not more about practice itself, but about the attitude to ideas, the attitude to ideas as a process where you go fishing, basically, and of how you deal with those ideas, how you get them, why you get them. By the way, do you want me to make a video about why ideas are important and why idea in itself is important and how to get it and how to differ good ideas from bad ideas? Please write me a comment or start any conversation with me so I would know that you are also interested in that topic. I would speak about it and propose something interesting as well. His visual arts were very unusual. So he has done this artwork, then he has done some artworks like this, live artworks for commissions, basically. And that is how he also started doing his first short film. Alphabet, it's this semi-horror story. A girl who recalls her nightmares through alphabet, through words, through letters. It's beautiful how Lynch connects idea of language and how we what we associate letters and language to with those nightmares, with this idea of having different dreams. So this topic of dreams started here, I guess, and then it continued and continued and continued. If you watched any films of David Lynch, you know that like topic of dreams is very important. So David never abandoned his visual art and his love to visual art, but I think that he took it and transformed it to his films as well. He brought this attitude, he brought this aesthetic, he brought those ideas, he brought this understanding of art into movies, into cinema. This is what is beautiful about film as an art form. Everyone who comes to it comes with his or her own background. David Lynch has came to cinema with attitudes of moving pictures. First filmmakers ever had this same attitude to films. If you look at works of, for example, Méliès, of first filmmakers who done those adventure films, they have also this very whimsical, mysterious, strange, adventurous vibe. David Lynch is one of the people who returned this kind of magic of cinema to cinema itself. Sometimes you watch a film and you feel that it is a film. It is for certain a film, and it could be done only through this medium. And when I see a film like this, for example, recently I watched Charlie Chaplin, Big City Lights, and I felt it very strongly. When I was a kid, I watched Metropolis, an instant feeling. When I watch Jacques Rivette, when I watch some big epic films, on the contrary, I often feel this sense that could be done only in cinema. Babylon is a great example of such film. Babylon is a film about films. It's a film about Hollywood. It's a love letter to Hollywood, I would say. And I recommend any cinema lover or any person who likes art and wants to know more about art and understand art and culture better to watch Babylon. It tells a lot about how cinema was and how cinema is and how cinema will be, what is even more important. And David Lynch also made a lot to make future cinema different. You know, he embraced digital cinema a lot when it first was created. Here in the city where I live in Łódź, he created his first feature digital film with those very old and impractical, strange digital cameras that were awful, both in quality and in their usage. Those were not VHS cameras, those were not film cameras, those were literally digital. Inland Empire is not my favorite film of his. It was a second film of his that I watched. It also has those sections of rabbits that I talk about at the beginning, but it's not my favorite film. It's a very personal film to me. A film that is connected to a lot of people who I know personally. A lot of people around me now in this city know David Lynch because they were with him when he filmed this. They were with him when he took part in festivals that were here in Łódź and in cities around this area. Also Lynch has written and said quite a lot about this city, about its connection to Los Angeles, its connection to Philadelphia, because Łódź is also a very old industrial city that was decaying for a very, very long time, that has this same aesthetic that you see in Eraserhead, all the same landscapes. You have dozens of abandoned factories. Each third house in the city is basically a factory. Most of the city was built between 19th and 20th century. Many parts of it are quite abandoned. Now city is recovering and renovating. Many interesting things happen here, and to some of interesting things I also have my impact and my arts and practice influence over. But for the last 5 years, I would say this city becomes quite a different city. I believe last time he was here was 6 or 7 years ago, and after that he had some conflict with mayor of our city and with team of mayor. It's also a weird story that I tell every time to any person who is interested in cinema and who comes to our city. Basically, there in the window is a building that David Lynch wanted to move a couple of centimeters away, and it's like a true story. He wanted to make a film center here, a real great film center, to help creators to collaborate with different people here. But when he came to a meeting with city council, and there was his guru, and his guru advised to move this old large power plant. It was like an abandoned power plant, and his guru said that, oh, could we please move this building a couple of centimeters out of the way, like energy is bad here. So this was a hilarious story, but not with such a hilarious ending, because this project was frozen and then ended. Now there is a film center indeed in this place. It opened just half a year ago, but it's a very different thing to what Lynch planned. But the story is something else. When it comes to films that I've made, both when I was still a teenager and then when I was studying abroad in Vilnius, and when I came here to this city of Łódź, that is basically called the city of film because we have most known film school in this country and in this region, and one of the most famous film schools in the world. A lot of influence by David Lynch, by Jacques Rivette, by Godard, by Nikita Lavretsky, Belarusian filmmaker who is an awesome filmmaker actually, and by a couple of others. First great influence in film, I would say, was David Lynch. So I have a couple of videos in Belarusian on this channel that have English subtitles, where I speak about film, exactly, about cities and film, about mysteries and film. So my genre of cinema that I've made is called Cities and Mysteries. And this genre of cities and mysteries is effectively my favorite genre of film. It's what David Lynch has often done. It's what Jacques Rivette has done. It's what Nikita Lavretsky has done. It's what Lav Diaz is sometimes doing. So I would say that David Lynch has changed the way people think about film education, about understanding of film, about message of a film, about mystery and film, about visual art and film. All of those things were impacted a lot, influenced a lot, changed a lot by David Lynch. And I believe that is important. That is how I want to remember him, through his films, through his artworks, through the way he speaks about this world, through the way he addresses other creators, other filmmakers. I think what he done to film and to visual art is something else. It's something great. To leave a comment about film, about David Lynch, about any of the topics that interest you, that we can start a discussion about, that we can talk about. And if you like to connect more, if you like to talk with me more, if you like to discuss some things, you can find a link in my description. It's linked to Calendly. You can set a call there. I would be glad to know you better. I am returning to YouTube after my exhibition opening. It was wild. I was doing a lot of stuff on this exhibition those previous weeks, and now I would like to return here. This spirit of work that he created, this attitude to life, to film, to creation that he had, it prevails, it persists, it continues through all of us fellas who were influenced by this artist, this human, this beautiful world of David Lynch. Thank you, and goodbye. Basically, David Lynch wanted to move a part of this factory. It's not really seen from here. There it is somewhere. He and his guru wanted to move it by 2 centimeters because of energy field or something like this. It failed. And when I look out of my window, I see 1, 2, 3 factories. 2 of them are abandoned. One is renovated and remade. Like in every yard, on every street, you have at least a couple of factories here in this city. It's very close to the city where Lynch studied. We also have our Star Alley here, similar to Los Angeles, and there are great people here. And it's very active. There are new stars adding like almost each year. It is truly a city of film. It is a city of creators. I now brought this book that is called Polish Creative Class. And it explains where people from Polish creative class are, in what cities, in what places. And I found it very interesting. I am still reading it. But Antos, what about Twin Peaks? Well, I watched Twin Peaks when I was studying in Vilnius. I watched it with my friends, and I watched it myself as well. And it's a strange show. Like influence of David Lynch over it is like overrated. There are a lot of more creators. There is Mark Frost. There are a lot of other people who influenced Twin Peaks a lot. But of course, David Lynch has brought a lot of valuable stuff there. A lot of his attitude, a lot of his thinking about film, a lot of his direction methods, and of course, the character of Cooper is connected a lot to David Lynch. Third season is arguably my favorite, though most recent and most weird, and it's most Lynchian. Most David Lynchian, I would say, from those 3. It is a great point of entrance into the world, into creativity of David Lynch. And it's great that he has this point of entrance. It's great when any artist, any filmmaker, any creative person has like a work that global audiences, many people enter his works through, and then they can continue and continue and continue. But it's important to have such a point, and it's great that he had such a point.